Hello, so we are back with Chennai, and today we want to talk more about aging. I think we didn't discuss that enough, and I think it will never be enough talking about growing old. Now, me and him were having this talk about my family, my grandpa and his brother, and how I feel so blessed having those genetics, because I don't remember them, they lived till their 80s, and I don't remember them falling too sick or going too often, to the doctor, or taking medication and antibiotics. If they fell ill, they would naturally sort of let it be and come out of it, and they were working till the end.
Okay.
And what would happen is, I remember seeing as a child, every day they would find a reason to step out, walk, do some activity. And I would wonder, why is it that some people have age-related illnesses and some don't? What is it? Is it our genetics? Is it our lifestyle? What is it?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, because I'm also thinking about my grandfather. Apparently, when I was growing up, we used to visit them in the countryside, but that's where they used to stay. And they were more agrarian lifestyle, where they used to, grow crops, rear animals for their sustenance. I used to remember my grandfather waking up so early in the morning, going to the fields, to cultivate, to weed, to harvest. And at times, he would wake up as early as 3, 4 a.m. and they walk long distances, go to the nearest bus stop, so that he can go into town, or to go to the nearest shops, which are very far away. Where normally us, when we were taught to go there the following morning, you would have nightmares the whole night thinking about that journey. But for him, it was like easy. Then that brings to mind the fact that he was in his 80s, and I'm thinking 90s because by then maybe, birth registration was not proper. I think he was in his 90s, but he looked fit. The guy was ripped, he was just tight and grim, and I was like, if I look like that at 90 years old, that would be amazing. So that's why I think I was listening to this, talking to you about Deepak Chopra, the MD, and you said that he's a meditation guru. I was listening to him when he was doing an interview with Oprah Winfrey in 1993, and he was talking about aging, and he's saying, no one dies of old age. Nobody. Then it got me thinking, I'm like, okay, when I read the Bible, you read the scriptures, maybe Sanskrit, there are certain people who were living up to 800 years old, 900 years old, 700 years old. Yeah. And where did all that go? Why are we dying now? Like, life expectancy in most countries is around 70, 80 years. Except for those countries like Japan, where people live longer, maybe up to 110, 120. But that's like way a smaller fraction of what people were living in the past. If I can live up to 800, 900 years old, which means at this age, at 50, 52, 40, we're still in our prime. We are not even yet.
You're like an infant.
Exactly, we're infant to them.
Yeah.
So what happened? What happened? Where did we lose it? Now, talking about lost connection, where did we lose it? Why are we dying so early? So when I was listening to that interview, he said, no one dies of old age, but people die of age-related illnesses.
That's interesting.
Which basically are biological markers. You're looking at people who are maybe dying of diabetes, which is also age-related, obesity, stress. And now, as a meditation guru, he was advocating that if people just meditate, I think you can actually talk more about this. How does meditation help with that?
Yeah, I can absolutely vouch for it. For me, the one thing that the one incident that I can talk about is in 2019, when I went for Vipassana, the 10-day retreat, the meditation retreat. That was my first real, face-to-face experience with healing through meditation, because we did nothing. We were sitting all day, 10 hours, we were just meditating. I came across people who had, I'd come across this lady who had cured her arthritis through meditation. And she had done 2 courses. And when she started the course, she was in a wheelchair. When she left, she was walking.
Oh, damn.
So that felt so real. And after that, what I started doing is, any small illness I would have, I feel a flu, I feel fever, I would try not to take a medication. And instead I would just sit and meditate. And it does work. I do that with my children as well. Because for children, they don't have the belief system. There's no barrier, right? It works so well, like they've started believing in the power of the mind. Of the mind, yes, absolutely. I think it really does work.
So so we can now, so aging becomes a misconception.
Yes.
Because with meditation, if we can reverse that process, because if you get the stress out of your system,
yes,
then you won't age because of stress.
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of these. I mean, if you look at the former American presidents, when they go into the White House, like Obama, when he went into the White House, the 44th president, the guy he had a full man of black hair, a little bit of, salt here and there, but by the time he left out of his 2 terms, it was just all white with a little bit of, paper.
Yeah.
So that's stress.
Yeah.
Because he is the most powerful man in the world. So stress, dealing with issues on an international level, that ages you.
Yeah.
So I think through meditation, it can help to get some of that stress away. Then you won't age that fast. And also looking at some of the diseases that we are talking about, diabetes, obesity, blood pressure, stress. This can be reversed if we are doing exercising, because we know that if you exercise, blood pressure can reduce. If we exercise, you can actually lower your obesity, which is basically a formula for height over weight squared. If I can reduce my weight, I can't do anything about my height, literally.
Yeah.
But if you can reduce your weight, which means your obesity levels can go, your figure goes down, then you become healthier. And also diabetes, which is something to do with sugar. If you are not exercising, so your input, especially if you're having a carbohydrate-rich diet, glucose, fructose, chocolates, that spikes your sugar levels. That will relate to diabetes. So if we have a very healthy lifestyle, then we can prevent that, or you can reverse aging by just becoming a healthy lifestyle, and also through meditation, which is basically what we are trying to advocate. And also, so aging is not fatal. So we can't die of just old age, because people are just dying because of those diseases. I would love to live. And also in that interview, Deepak was saying that science, as of now, there's a report that came out that if people can reverse these things, they can live up to 130 years. Up to now, I mean, that's the life expectancy now. If you have a healthy lifestyle, meaning that you sleep well, you sleep long enough, you eat a healthy, balanced diet, clean, and also you exercise regularly, then you can have a long life, which is what we wish for. Then also he was talking about, there's this thing known as biological age, or fitness age,
Yeah.
where there are things called telomeres for people who are into DNA sequencing in chromosome. At the end of each chromosome, both ends of a chromosome, you have a DNA sequence,
Yeah.
which is repetitive. That is known as telomere. Now, the ends, they help was when DNA replicates. There's bound to be crossovers, entanglements, so that prevents these chromosomes from being entangled. So every time a replication takes place, the ends of the chromosome, they shorten. So that's the only way you can test someone's age. That's why they do with professional athletes, where they can test their age by looking at the length of the ends of the chromosome. Then from there, you can tell the biological age of a person. So this concept, this thing that, or this idea that people die of old age, it's not because of that. People just die of old, just being diseases which are preventable in a way if you live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I had this when I was doing my course on yoga and the body engineering and stuff. There was something about biomarkers. Our genes have biomarkers, and I think the study is called Epigenetics.
Yes.
what they found out is that there are certain illnesses that are passed on genetically, like diabetes and high blood pressure.
Yes.
But that can be changed. We at some point, we sort of felt like helpless. This runs in my family. I have to live with it. But now we know that can be changed because those biomarkers in our genes are influenced by our lifestyle. Like smoking, like sleeping late, like you said. So, can we expand further on this?
So, epigenetics, the word epi means outside. So these are some of the things that we can pass on to the next generation, to your offsprings, to your children, outside of the DNA or the basic genes which you can pass on to your kids. So that is not part of your DNA sequence.
Oh, okay.
So what happens in DNA sequence is that you have bases, a TCG. I mean, that's if you go deep into it.
Yes.
So these are all, they basically code for certain proteins.
Yes.
Now these proteins are what if you can pass on to your children. If you're a tall person, let's say you may marry a tall, both of you are tall, then most chances are that your child can also be tall. So this is what you pass on. But for someone who is constantly exercising, training in the gym, so what they've said that because of that activity that you're doing, you can actually alter the DNA sequence by having influence, because your body can now adjust to that because you're always doing that. So it has that memory, because in your muscle you have that muscle memory. So that is also then passed on to your children. So people who are very active tend to have active children. Sad to say, also people who are normally just sitting at home, getting obese, most of the time they can also have children who are like that, because that's what you are passing on to your kids. So I mean, is it a choice where you can have an active lifestyle? Now through epigenetics, which is the recent studies showing that you can actually, by the nature of your environment, you can influence the DNA sequence. Then you can pass it on to your children. So if you are a very active person, then most likely your kids are going to be very active as well. So so there's this thing called, I also saw this one, I was reading through an article where every time they say okay, let's put it this way. If you take a chicken, you put it in the oven, it's going to turn from a white chicken into a brown chicken because you have roasted it. That's cooking.
Yes.
It is cooked.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens to us as human beings. The moment you are born, you start cooking like a chicken from inside. So that process is known as glycation.
Okay.
So glycation basically is the process whereby your fructose, your glucose, they combine with your proteins and lipids to alter the structure of your cells. Then that's the moment you start cooking. So I mean, from the word glycation, that sounds more like glucose. So you're looking at people who normally are into carbohydrate-rich diets. You start glycating faster than someone else is not using carbohydrate-rich diets. That's why we talk of trying to avoid simple sugars like your white rice, white bread, chocolate, because these spike your sugar levels in your bloodstream too quickly, and it goes into your bloodstream. Then obviously it ends up into these organs. So you start cooking your body at a very high temperature, then you glycate. So glycating is to do with glucose. So high-rich diet in glucose means you're aging also very, very fast. So if you limit that, which means you don't age faster, and then you don't also age faster. Now, this has been shown to be true, because if you look at the cartilage of a child or a baby, the cartilage is white. But for an old person who's around 100 years old, the cartilage is brown. So that shows that glycation is taking place. So you see, aging has to do with our lifestyle. If you eat the wrong diet, you're going to age faster as such. So we need to be very careful about that. And also I was listening to one of the things that you shared with me about hope molecules.
Yes.
If you can just touch on that a little bit.
Yes. So aging is also like you've told me before. It's related to our muscle elasticity and bone density. And this lady, she was talking about home molecules. I think they're called myokines in the that's the scientific term that they use. Is that when you contract your muscles release these molecules and these neurotransmitters in the brain, and that kind of gives you a high. It helps with depression, mood regulation, anxiety. Doesn't have to be an intense workout. As long as you're moving, you're walking, you're sprinting, you're doing the stairs. This is what you're doing. You're contracting your muscles, and that's very important. And we also talk about muscle elasticity. So can we kind of expand more on that?
Yes. So those hope molecules, basically, they give us hope. Less stress in life, less depression, and also mood regulation.
Yes.
So the moment, every time when you, like what you're saying, contract a muscle, the body dumps these proteins into your bloodstream, and they help you to basically have a healthy lifestyle. Once they end up in the brain, they're like antidepressants, mood regulators, so they're very effective. Muscle elasticity.
Yes, and bone density.
You see, muscles, they are elastic. That's why when you're looking at a child, the moment the child wakes up in the morning, that's where we also lost it, because if you look at a child when they wake up in the morning, they're either doing a cobra, the baby just goes into a cobra pose. Starts stretching the moment the child wakes up, an infant. Then they do the baby pose. That's where all these names come from. Then also they start, just rotating their bodies. They do this happy baby pose, stretching, all these things. Their muscles, their joints, they're very flexible. They are very elastic. But as we get older, because of bad habits, not exercising, not stretching, not doing meditation or yoga, the muscles, because they're elastic, they become less elastic. And because also of getting older, naturally anything that is elastic tends to get less elastic as you get older. But you can reduce or you can lower the rate at which this is happening by doing all these things that I have talked about. So as you get older, you're not doing anything, you're just idle, you're sedentary lifestyle. These muscles, they become too tight. When they become too tight, they're no longer performing their function. That's why you have people, when you are standing up, all of a sudden, you feel your body stiff. For you to take the next step, your leg is like a log. Then a few steps later, you start bending your knee, because your muscles are becoming less elastic. But for people who train and exercise, they put their muscles through a full range of motion. They are flexible. They do those stretches in the gym. So the muscles, they stay elastic for a longer time. Now, stiffness. So when that takes place, which means your muscles are no longer doing their work. Now, what separates one bone from the other? For example, just for argument's sake, your thigh bone, which is the femur, and your shin bone, which is the tibia. What separates these two bones are the muscles which are pulling in opposite directions. This thigh muscle and shin bone muscle, they pull the bones away from getting together. Now, if these muscles are no longer functioning because they're less elastic, then it's bone on bone. Then you start having arthritis.
Oh, that's where the knee problems come from. I came to you with the knee problem when I started working out.
Exactly.
And it was gone. In 2 weeks, it was gone. I couldn't believe. I think there's a myth around, if you have a knee problem, don't work out. Because it changed everything for me. Every time I have a knee issue, we do some stretching, we do some workouts, and it's gone.
Because the muscles are not performing their function, their task. They're supposed to protect our joints are meant to last us as long as you live. So this idea that people can go for, I can understand why people at times go to that, maybe because they never had this lifestyle before, where you have knee replacement, hip replacements.
Yes.
It's because the muscles, they were not kept active The muscles were not doing their function.
Yeah.
Then, like we said, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So it was just bone on bone, grinding against each other. So by definition, arthritis is when that joint, when the bones keep rubbing against each other, like anything, there's bound to be inflammation.
Yeah.
So basically, arthritis by definition is the inflammation of a joint. So that becomes arthritis, either depending if either it's in the knee or where it is in the vertebra along your spine. Still, that becomes it. Now, when that happens, that joint becomes very stiff.
Yeah.
It's like they are glued together. Yeah. There's no separation anymore. Then you have knee issues, hip issues. You can't walk fluently or fluidly. So then that's when people start to walk. Either they're walking with a limp because one side is not working properly and so forth. Now, bone density comes into play because now when you start exercising,
Yeah.
which is the whole idea about muscles are meant to work. That's the way we are designed. The muscles are meant to work. So if you exercise, like I said, it doesn't have to be in the gym. Hiking, dancing, walking, jumping, running, it makes your muscles work. Because your body as it is, it's weight, so it becomes a weight-bearing exercise. Just walking, running, aside. So the muscles become very active. So they start pulling. So this muscle, the thigh bone muscle, it starts to pull because it's getting shorter and stronger. It starts to pull the bone itself. Now the bone has to respond because there's resistance. It's being pulled from both directions. Where it is attached and where it originates. It is being pulled because the muscle is getting shorter. So what the body does now, it sends calcium to make that bone stronger. What you call calcification.
Yes.
Now, so your bone becomes very dense. It becomes stronger, which means it can't break easily.
Yeah.
So you have people who are just walking. Then you hear that they just fell down and they broke their bones. Yeah. Especially now, it's unfortunate that especially it's very common in women because we know that the monthly discharge, you lose iron because it's blood, you lose iron. So that iron, so your bones, they lose that density. Yeah. So they become very brittle. So osteoporosis, which is very common in women, is when they're just walking easily, very free, because their bones are now brittle. They can just break like that, So some of the things that you can avoid by exercising and making your muscles longer. So your muscles, one, instead of just staying elastic, but your bones also, they become stronger. Then they can, basically, it's like when you have buildings, you have those steel structures. So the bones are your steel structures. They keep your frame upright. Yeah. So apart from your posture being upright, you can also perform certain tasks very efficiently because everything is working perfectly.
Yeah, so this Parker, my kids go for Parker, and the senior coach there, he did tell us, we were like, why do children have to start as early as the age of 3? And what they do in Parker is a lot of mobility, and they teach them how to fall and not hurt themselves. And he said bone density is also part of it. The more pressure you put on the bones, the more they're working out and doing those certain movements which they wouldn't do otherwise, like jumping, climbing, hanging. It is helping their joints. It is helping their bones, and the bones will become stronger from that age onwards, and it will help them further.
So there's this myth.
Yeah.
With most parents, because of fear. They don't want to send their kids to the gym because everyone wants their child, the acceptable societal expectation out there is that you want your child to be tall.
Yes. Yeah.
Handsome. So they think that if a child is going to hold a weight in the gym, if a child is going to squat in a gym or do calisthenics, I don't know, for some reason they feel that your child is not going to grow tall. Yeah, because you're just putting weight on their bones,
yes,
on their muscles. So it's like you're just dwarfing them, you're just suffocating them so they will stay short.
I've heard that one. That they'll have
Okay,
stunted growth, and Parker is new. All this
exactly.
calisthenics. These are things that we haven't done in this part of the world. They've not been, it's not common. But I mean, just because of that fear, I can't stop my children.
No, there's no science to it because we know height is a genetic thing. It's genetics.
Yeah.
Either you have tall parents,
Yeah.
both of you are tall, so the dominant gene there is TT.
Yeah.
Either one of the parents is tall, the other one is short. Most of the time, the dominant T gene will dominate, then you can have a tall children. And maybe, depending also whether you have recessive genes, the small t, then you can have a shorter child. That's genetics. Yeah. It's hardwired in our genes, so there's nothing you can do that. So also the other thing is that people, I also have friends who have this, and I understand why they're doing it, and I'm not going to discourage them from doing it because, hey, to each his own. So you have a child where they have these pull-up bars in their houses. Most of the houses here, they have pull-up bars.
Yeah, we do.
By the door. I see, that's why I say most of my friends. So I understand that because it feels like when your child is doing pull-ups, your child is stretching himself. Yeah. And also I've seen some props in the gym where people, they are just holding, and then their waist attached to their lower limbs, and they're being stretched, and the understanding is that will make you taller, which is the thing out there. But as I said, it's in the genes. Either you do the pull-ups, or you don't do the pull-ups. You squat, it doesn't make you shorter. You do the pull-ups, it doesn't make you longer. But what it does is, it makes your bones stronger, one.
Yes.
It makes your muscles stronger, two. So instead of slouching or hunching your back, you remain upright and you have an erect torso. So that will make you look longer. That will make you look taller, and also have that confident posture. So, by doing exercise, yes, it can help you to have that confident look about yourself, but it doesn't really make you taller or it makes you shorter. So I would encourage people to train because your child is not going to get short at all. That's it. I mean, if your child is the way they are going to be, just talking about genetics, you were talking about aging. Is it genetics also that plays part into it? So when I was listening to Deepak Chopra, he said that if your parents, both of your parents live to 80 years, yes, you're going to, there is part of it that you're going to get from your parents. You're going to live a bit longer as well. But with a healthy lifestyle, you can only, so with that genetics part, you can only add 3 years. So most likely, maybe, if you, by chance, you can live to 83 years. But if your parents were 80 years old and they live that long, life expectancy, instead of living 83 years, if you exercise, healthy lifestyle, which is basically your diet, nutrition, meditation, enough sleep, you can actually add, look at this, an extra, maybe times an extra 30 years old. So you can live up to 110 years old. By just changing your lifestyle, changing your environment, changing your nature, but just looking at the fact that your parents live to 80 years and you, okay, I will live up to 80. Oh yes, you will, but you can only have an extra 3 years. But if you have a healthy lifestyle, you can actually live up to 110 years. So it's a no-brainer.
I'm already dreaming about it.
Oh, my parents are still alive, so I'm just hoping maybe they live up to 100 years.
Yeah, me too. This has been a great conversation. I think it's never enough, and it's so fascinating. Every time I learn something about the body, it feels like there's more to it, right? Even scientists have not been able to kind of discover what is there in our body, how we're designed. I think they've just gotten to the surface and they're still finding out. I'm glad we can have these conversations. We can put that knowledge out there.
Yes.
And I hope that this, even if it makes a difference to one person, it changes one mindset.
I'm
that's
happy.
Good enough.
I'm happy.
I love having these conversations.
Yes, and also when we look at our parents, our grandparents, let's cherish them when they are still alive.
Yeah.
And the longer they live, the better. So I would encourage most of us, basically, to try to have our part. They don't have to come to the gym, like I said.
Yeah.
They just have to do something.
Yes.
Movement, I always say this, movement is better than none at all.
Yes.
And always strive to get better and progress. So if they are not, a ship is safe in the harbor. I'm just looking at this boats. They are safe in the harbor,
Yeah.
but they're not meant to stay there.
Yeah.
They're meant to go out in the ocean, into the sea.
Yeah.
That's why they're designed. Having our parents staying at home because they're afraid maybe they will just be walking there and they break the hip, thinking that your parents are going to be run, because of age or related illnesses like dementia, they're just going to, just that fear.
Yeah.
But let's have our parents active. Encourage your parents to go out, to do something, just to walk around the neighborhood, to do something, to engage in it. If they have hobbies like dancing, walking, hiking, going to the malls, just make them active. My father up to now, I think maybe he got that from his father as well, because he's still going out to the fields. He does his own vegetables, he does his own crops, he does his own rearing of chickens. And my mother is also into rearing chickens. That keeps them active.
Yeah.
That's an active lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they're still able to perform those tasks because they are active all the time. That's what we encourage. So when you look at it necessarily doesn't suck to be 60, 70, 80 years old, but it sucks to be weak.
Yeah.
So I encourage people just to stay active.
And there was a time I was scared of aging, and after having this complete change of lifestyle, I think I'm looking forward to it, and I hope we all get over this fear and go beyond it and change our lives.
I'm embracing my age and I'm loving it because it's a blessing to live up to 52 years old and looking forward to the next 52 years old as well by trying to stay active, inshallah.
And I have this motivation every time I see you, so that's not going to go anywhere.
Let's keep inspiring each other.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.